It was a quiet morning in Washington, D.C., but the moment General Tessa Harris stepped out of the Pentagon, the world around her seemed to shift. As the highest-ranking black female officer in the U.S. Army, Tessa carried a weight few could understand, the weight of her accomplishments and the burdens of systemic racism that followed her every step. She had just finished a top-secret meeting with the Secretary of Defense and was heading to her vehicle when two uniformed police officers stepped into her path. "Excuse me, ma'am, can I see your ID?" one officer asked, his voice laced with suspicion. Tessa paused, her pulse quickening. She wasn't just any woman on the street. She was a general, a leader of thousands, draped in the uniform that symbolized her years of sacrifice and service. But to these officers, it didn't matter. To them, she was just another black woman who didn't belong in a position of power. "Do you have a problem, officer?" she asked, her voice calm, but filled with the steely authority she had honed in battle. "We need to verify your identification," the second officer snapped, his eyes scanning her uniform with disbelief. "We've had reports of suspicious activity." Tessa's heart clenched. Suspicious activity? She had done nothing but serve her country for decades. But in their eyes, none of that mattered. Her rank, her uniform, her leadership, all reduced to the color of her skin. The handcuffs clicked into place before she could respond. In that moment, a flood of emotions surged through her. Anger, frustration, and the sharp sting of humiliation. But Tessa Harris was no stranger to injustice. She wasn't about to let these officers define her. She wasn't about to let them steal her dignity, her career, or her future. With a cool precision, she pulled her phone from her pocket. As the officers continued to argue among themselves, she dialed a number. The line clicked, and within seconds, Karoline Leavitt's voice was on the other end. "Karoline, I need you to listen carefully," Tessa said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "I've been wrongfully detained by two police officers. This isn't the first time this has happened, but today it goes public." Karoline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, was known for her sharp mind and unwavering loyalty to the administration. She'd seen her fair share of media storms, but this was different. The line on the other end was filled with quiet urgency. "Are you okay?" Karoline asked, her tone serious. "Do you want me to get someone down there?" "I'm fine," Tessa replied. "But I need you to handle this.
Right now.
I want you to make this public. Expose them for what they are. I'm not just some woman they can push around. I'm a general." Karoline didn't hesitate. "I've got you. I'll make sure the world knows." The news hit like wildfire. Karoline Leavitt, ever the skilled strategist, wasted no time. Within hours, the story was all over the media. General Tessa Harris, a black female leader in the U.S. Army, had been detained by police officers who had no idea who she was, simply because of her race. The bystanders who recorded the incident showed the shocking video of the general, hands cuffed behind her back, her face a mixture of determination and defiance. The public was furious. How could this happen to someone who had given so much for her country? Activists, celebrities, and politicians flooded social media with messages of support. Hashtags like #Justice for General Harris and #Racist Cops Unmasked trended across the country. The injustice was clear to millions, and Karoline Leavitt's sharp messaging ensured the administration took a firm stance. "This is unacceptable," Karoline said during a press briefing hours after the incident. "We stand with General Harris, and we stand against racial profiling and systemic injustice. These officers will be held accountable." Her words were more than a statement, they were a rallying cry. It wasn't just a political issue anymore, it was personal. The backlash was swift. Public outrage turned into an insistent demand for action. As the story continued to unfold, more details about the two officers came to light. Both had a history of racist behavior, including previous complaints of racial profiling and excessive force. The pressure on their department grew exponentially. Investigations were launched, and every move the officers made was scrutinized. Public figures and activists demanded that the officers be fired. People weren't just angry, they were demanding change. National protests erupted, and the story was discussed on every major news outlet. The officers' names were dragged through the mud as their past wrongdoings were uncovered. The department had no choice but to act. The officers were placed on administrative leave, their careers effectively ruined. The investigation continued, but it was clear. Their time in law enforcement was over. While the officers' careers were destroyed, Tessa Harris didn't stop fighting. She used the media attention to push for systemic changes in both law enforcement and the military. She spoke at rallies, meetings with lawmakers, and used every opportunity to highlight the deep-seated racism that still plagued both institutions. Her position was stronger than ever, and the support from across the nation helped bolster her resolve. She became a beacon for other women of color in the military, a symbol of resistance against racial injustice. But it wasn't just her military achievements that earned her respect. It was her courage to speak out, to demand what was right, and to fight for the dignity of all those who had been mistreated because of the color of their skin. As for Karoline Leavitt, the fallout from the incident became a defining moment in her career. While some of her critics accused her of politicizing the event, others praised her for her unwavering commitment to justice. Karoline's quick response was seen as a rare example of using power for good, showing that even in the highest circles of power, a strong moral stance could make a difference. Months later, Tessa stood at the podium of a press conference, flanked by fellow military leaders. The officers who had wronged her were gone, but the battle for justice was far from over. She spoke not just of her own experiences, but of the experiences of those who had been silenced for too long. Today, Tessa said, her voice steady and powerful, "We stand together to demand change. This is not just about me. It's about all those who have suffered in silence. We have the power to rewrite this narrative, to make sure that no one, no matter their rank, their gender, or their race, ever has to endure what I did." Her words were met with applause, a reminder that her fight wasn't just her own. It was a fight for everyone who had ever faced the weight of injustice. And thanks to a single phone call, the nation had been forced to reckon with it.